I am live in the Sacred Rose Temple to give you this week's energy report. And I can feel by the way that our collective is at the moment that these energy reports and the way we are like moving through understanding astrology and spirituality and the way that the world works are really needed. So I understand that many of us, including me, are kind of really sat with the current goings on in the world and with our own suffering too, because this is crazy times. And I think what we're feeling this week is the oncoming energy of the fire horse, which is tomorrow, the 17th, the Chinese New Year begins. And really also the portal of the eclipse has been opening and we find ourselves in the eclipse feeling it today. We'll be definitely feeling it tomorrow. And I really want to kind of focus on those things and what it's bringing up. I also want to focus on the bigger collective unconscious. I shared a video today by Marie-Yvonne Franz, who's one of my favorite Jungian analysts. Her and Marion Woodman have been very inspirational to me. And she shared about what happened when people didn't own their shadows and how that creates our collective conscious, how what happens in the world is a direct reflection of what is going on inside the individual human psyche. So if you've not seen that video, I really suggest that you watch it to have a greater understanding of how individual psyche really impacts and creates the external. So why are we seeing what we're seeing right now? It's purely because the individual is being told you need to make changes, otherwise this world ain't going to change. And of course that just makes sense, that we can't expect changes out there if individuals aren't doing them. It's not up to everybody else to change their behavior, but for each and every one of us to do that. And this is what I'm going to talk about at the end. I think I'm going to do a free masterclass on it because it's a big content and I've been sharing it for about 20 years. And I've been pretty excited that the climate's changing now and people are actually listening to some of the things that many of us have been privy to in our awakening about the world. So I'll talk about that at the end. But I first want to talk about coming into the fire horse energy. I've got a whole masterclass on the fire horse. And we felt this week going that there's been the last mass shed of skin. Like we've realized something last week and we've really made a big change about that. I know I changed a big direction in an aspect of relating that has really shown something different show up for me. And I want you to think about what big thing was the last shed and what is it now that you are being edged into. This firehorse year, without going into too much detail, because like I said, I've got a whole masterclass on it, which is psychological rather than just astrological, is about the momentum, about instinct, and about having a bold, clear direction to go in. We've been very much in this kind of muddy water, this quagmire of like stuckness. And as we move forward, we're going to really be asked, how do we get some clarity about what is asking us? We can't sit this year thinking, I'm sat on it. There's no longer sitting on it. That egg ain't going to get warmer. We need to hatch the egg. We're going forward. So there's movement after long containment. We've all felt, wow, this has been so slow. And the fire horse is going to burn through those slow stagnations so that we will be feeling more courageous, we will be feeling more movement, and we should embody courage and alignment. We should do the very things that we're scared to do and know that they will bring us into the alignment. And that is very, very explosive with the energy that we've got coming through now with the Aquarius New Moon Eclipse. And this is ruled by the energy of Saturn. So I want to talk about that first, and then I'll talk about Saturn energy. So karmic redirection and a huge turning point is happening now. I was saying to someone yesterday, like, we reap karma for how we behave, what part we've played in things, whether we've known it or not. And I was saying this in relation to the last few years of all that crazy pandemic, and we can't just say, oh, well, we didn't know. We have to own that we were responsible for making people do things they didn't want to, or maybe condemning of those that stood against it, or maybe we were actually hands on in that field. And we need to take responsibility of that. Karma is instant, and it's also in, we know, the bardo and in the death layers at the mat, when we get our heart weighed against our soul, and we have to see really what have been our parts in it all. Did we speak out? I said it during the whole time that we were locked down, that I was against it, that I felt that something bigger was going on. And I really feel that now I was so shut down and so unsupported, and I still kept speaking because I knew that I had been privileged to a life that led me to a deeper awakening, and that the karmic retribution of not doing something was too heavy for my soul. So you're going to be seeing things like that: karmic redirection and turning point. Karma will serve you what has not been served, or it will redirect you as a result of you being aware of that. We will have this eclipse as identity within the collective. So what I've just shared is that your behavior is not exclusive to what you see happening in the world. Your behavior is part of what needs to be changed for a mass collective change. And so what you need to do is really feel that, like, what part have I got in this mass change? What part have I got? What do I hold in the world being a different place? And it's not ignorance, and it's not turning away, and it's not saying you're overwhelmed. It's saying, what is the very thing that I can contribute to this world? Maybe it's looking at it. Maybe it's seeing where you have colluded within those big frameworks. We're seeing them now all coming out. Where have you been part of it? And I'll talk about this at the end, the celebrity worship and all of that. But we're going to be feeling like we're in an overthinking. We've got lots of mental overthinking going on right now. We're thinking about everything, and the nervous system is in overdrive. We're feeling this nervous system activation. It doesn't mean we ignore and pull back from the current situation, because of course if we do that, it just gets bigger. So what we need to do is understand, how do we take some time out to meditate, recalibrate, settle your nervous system without disengaging, because it needs our engagement this time. This time really, really needs us to step up and to realize we're quite an active part of this. So I've been doing my vagus nerve recalibration every morning. I'm taking 15 minutes of breath work. I'm doing stretches. I'm going to the gym. I'm just doing things that really help my body hold the weight of what's going on in my own life and in the collective. You cannot ignore it. You can't. So ground in the body. The fire horse is about grounding in the body and shifting from old identities. Oh, I'm too sensitive for this. I'm too overwhelmed by this. Oh, there's nothing I can do. All those identities have to shift within this eclipse. So I would ask yourself, what identity about yourself needs to shift to allow a new energy coming in from this portal with the fire horse that's actually helpful to the wider world? That's really, really significant. I think what we've got to understand is we're saturated in a lot of Saturn energy at the moment. And Saturn is about structure and foundation. So bring some of that into your life. That will really help work with this energy. Reality and the consequence. So your behavior always has consequence. Maturity and responsibility. Being mature enough to know that you're responsible for change in you and change around you. Boundaries and containment, time, patience, endurance, the authority that you give people outside of yourself, and the authority that you hold within yourself. This is super key in what we're seeing out there. Discipline that builds sovereignty, and, you know, karma as cause and effect, that whatever we do or don't do has a karmic impact on us. Spiritual adulthood, being mature in our spirituality. I'm seeing a whole lot of bypassing. I actually seen on somebody's post the other day that was sharing about our collective issues, that she was being, somebody put, you're being judgmental. Yeah, she's being judgmental. And I shared a post about judgment and how that old spiritual, oh, you're being judgmental or I'm being judgmental, is really harmful and very bypassing. We have to judge, especially as women, to keep ourselves safe, to have our wits about us. The article is in this group, in the Sacred Rose Temple group, if you want to read about judgment. It's really important that we change beliefs around some of these very dangerous spiritual bypassing terms, and that we start to feel that we're living in integrity. We're not superhuman. We're not perfect. We do judge. We don't do enough, that we do shut down. We do hold karmic responsibility. This is what Saturn's trying to show us. It's really trying to make us be more mature, more spiritually awaken. And I'll write something on spiritual and awakening, because they're two very different things. And Saturn always feels more heavy. It has a very serious tone to it. And we feel the pressure of Saturn on all of us. We all feel the pressure. It becomes very clear when there's a lot of Saturn influence that we are, what is not sustainable, what no longer sustains us, what no longer is sustaining us in the world. And we're seeing that very clearly, and not fantasizing anymore that celebrities and the government and the health system and all this are good. When we're not fantasizing, we're seeing the corruption, we're seeing what's wrong, and it makes us have a desire for change, yeah, and to take ownership of our own life instead of giving it away to the governments, to celebrities, to systems that really cannot cope with the new energies that are coming in and the changes that want to be made. So with Saturn being specifically in Aries, we're looking at this new era of leadership. Hurrah. You know, we can see that any past system is built on corruption. It'll come up more and more. If you think that the Epstein files are big, wait till we get under the current of all the things that have been going on around that. I will share soon how the Epstein files are just one branch of a great big tree of corruption and what has been going on in the world that I have been sharing literally for 20 years. And that this big corrupt system, with the Epstein files finally erupting, not that many people are doing anything about it, that's a different story, but there is going to be more earthing of the accountability, shall we say. And that Saturn in Aries is being called to us to shift from spiritual dissolution to disciplined courage. It's not about being spiritual anymore. It's about spirituality feeding an awakening of what's going on out there, and then us having the courage to do something about it or to speak out about it. If you think you're spiritual and you're not in the energy of being courageous, of speaking out, of dismantling the current systems, then you're just using it as a badge to label your ego. You might have fancy, pretty kind of marketing or schools that are all trying to be nice. But really now is about dissolution. It's about ownership of where we've encouraged such a corrupt society. And this is going to, if you can go there, going to make you more accountable. It will make you have a really mature fire in you, and you will begin to build sovereignty in yourself. So you've got to really ask yourself the question with Saturn in Aries is, what am I willing to stand for and live by? What do you really stand for? I really stand for bringing the feminine into empowerment, into awakening, into true spirituality that does not bypass, into the future feminine. These are the things I'm standing for. What are you standing for? It's important. Every single one of us has a deep role to play in this, and each as significant as the other. And we have to realize that the bigger picture with all this energy this week is that there is shadow rising, systematic exposure of impower balances, power that has been used wrongly. And I'm going to go through all the threads where that's been wrongly used: celebrity worship, all these rich and famous people, people that are in the celebrity, all your pop stars, anyone who's a billionaire who hasn't donated all their wealth is still part of that dark system. I seen someone share a quote from one of the pop stars this week, and I was annoyed. This pop star is a billionaire. Billion means to have more money than you can ever spend in one lifetime and hoard it away from civilization. I don't think that person is worthy of any quotes being used, and I doubt they even said it. So this is about understanding systematic abuse, things like celebrity worship, your TV that feeds you absolute nonsense all the time, and distorted value systems becoming really visible. We will see there's a play in the media of, I've seen it all this week, of what was being shared and allowed to be shared during the pandemic now actually being shared very widely. And I'm sure that's to you know, really decombobulate all the people that they were saying the opposite to last 2 years ago. It's crazy. There is this war. And what you need to be is stop listening to the TV, stop listening to the media, use your intuition, use your discernment as the fact or the information comes out. You know, I hated that word like 2 years ago when people were saying, I'm making the decision because it's backed by the scientists. And I was like, which scientists? The ones paid by the corrupt government. You know, you have to question everything. Otherwise, we're not in this energy where shadow rises so we can become more conscious. That's the goal of shadow, is that it rises to make us more aware, and it brings our consciousness into strength. That's how it works. This is about revelation. We're in a revelationary time. It's not about collapse. We do not want to go into collapse. It is calling for your courage. It's calling for your strength. I think us as women are really being called forward into this timeline to be able to not be numb, to refuse while all this is going on, to be numb and say, oh, I can't deal with this. This is too much for me. People are suffering much worse than I know. I hold and say this all the time as a white privileged woman, like much more deep in suffering. And I have to use that privilege to help people. Are you using yours? Refuse silent compliance as a woman. Stop silencing yourself. I just spent the last years having to like bite my fist and share sparingly because I was losing followers, I was losing friends, I was having arguments because I held a different outlook to the world. We must allow each other to speak and share from different viewpoints, and especially viewpoints that are not the same the mass holds, because when the mass holds something, it's usually a distortion. So listen to the individuals that speak out against mass systems, because they hold a different belief and a different insight that might actually change the way we're seeing and working our world. Speak out. You don't need to think you're right, but you can speak out about what you intuitively feel or think or, believe in. Speak clearly. Even if your voice shakes, speak clearly and hold your boundaries. If you are speaking and people are trying to silence you or belittle you or say it's not appropriate, all of those things, it happens to women that speak out. Do not allow it. Pull your boundary up and say, I will speak, and I will speak when I want, where I want, and how I want. Withdraw from energy and people around you who are distorting, who are not allowing this, who aren't in the current of this, because they will try to minimize your passion and your fire and your sacred rage to make a big change in the world as it is happening. There are some of us carrying that flame, and I stand up as one of them. So embody integrity daily. are your values, are your morals as a woman really being put in action each day? And I don't mean, like this is what I believe spiritually, and then you go and behave a certain way at the market or in the garden with your friends. Like, hold that integrity in all places as women. Hold your spiritual, awakened, courageous, future feminine, as I am calling my new body of work. Hold her, let her come forward, because she's really needed. And build relational, conscious led relationships, and not just relationships with others. So listen to those words again: relational, conscious led relations, but also your own leadership. Conscious led leadership. I am conscious the world looks like this, and I need to lead through a world that looks like this, because that's the medicine that will actually help this world. In our body, when we're in our body, we do overthink. We're feeling this space that all this outside of us at the minute is taking us into deep thinking space. It brings in nervous system activation. It will bring in restlessness. You will feel hypersensitive, and you cannot help but feel a sense of fated redirection. Whether you like it or not, there's a redirection happening in your life. So I really ask that during this time you try to look after yourself as well. So that's how we face all of this. We have to say, I can take on what's happening, I can be part of the movement, but that is on the foundation of self-care, breath work, having your baths and your candles, doing your body work. All of that will help us move through this, and grounding and being in your body is essential. So like I said, this energy this week is not a collapse. It's a revelation. It's something that is trying to move us out of the current structure. I've been reading this week, we've been having loads of solar flares. The Schumann resonance has been up and down, up and down. I'm currently in mid southwest France, and it's absolutely like the riverbanks are flooding. I live on the river. Luckily, my property is built on a high enough gradient, but the river's swollen. People can't get over the bridges. Like, the earth is crazy. This is happening in France. I know that across the world, America is having like huge freeze over. There's stuff happening everywhere. And I think this is symbolic. I was speaking to my friend Shireen from the Law of Positivism, and she was saying, yeah, isn't this like fire and water energy meeting? It is. Yeah, there's this kind of rumble in our energetic sphere that is causing all of this, and it's all for good reason. It's not a surprise. The shake-up is happening in our world as all these energies and planets and astrology hit us and our individual psyche. So please trust that how you're feeling, it will pass, but it's asking you to feel. It's asking you to be part of it. It's not asking you to sit back and say, oh, this is all too much for me, because we miss a great opportunity to make some really deep changes in our world, and we all know how much that is needed. So think about these things. I will do a bigger class on it, because I need to think of how I do that, because of the way social media works with shadow banning and taking words out. But our political systems, which are corrupt, and everybody is finally seeing that left and right are the same birds, and that the system is corrupt. We're seeing that media coverage of celebrity worship and any billionaire worship, or all of those people, everyone we've worshipped, has got to go. And in a Jungian psychological framework, any worship we place on another is something we're not owning in ourselves. So we worship the pop stars, we worship the politicians, we worship the gurus, because we're unwilling to claim all of what we like and don't like within ourselves. So it's time we stopped elating people with financial awards. We give them energy, we give them money, and the collective gets depleted, and these systems, I shall say, become richer. And I'll talk about that in my masterclass, because there are, underneath the governments, underneath the medical systems, underneath the scientists, underneath what we're seeing happening, is powers that control it. And I'll talk about who they are in this masterclass. These powers that control the world siphon energy, and it's been since the beginning of time. The Gnostics knew this. There was the shadow and the light, and people call it satanic, or people will call it God. Dark and light have always been two forces that have fought since the beginning of time, and still are. That they never disappear. We just find new words for them. So what is this darkness? You know, the never-ending story is a whole film about the power of this shadow that that eats the world alive. And that shadow is eating the world, and it's compiled from our own shadow. So we give it the energy. This is exactly what's happening right now. And so to be empowered at this time, we have to know what shadow is feeding and who is it we're feeding. And let's start there. Feeding the media with our time and belief in things that they share and report. Believing the the celebrity worship model, or the political system, or the medical system. And I don't want to condemn all of the medical system, because clearly people get helped, but there's something dark in that situation that generates money and isn't always about really getting to the root of illness and what's going on in our world, but rather giving a quick fix, which we know doesn't always fix. So there needs to be an overhaul in it all, so that we're all seeing the corruption. And I think when that happens, what we're going to see is the things like the healing technology of sound and light and all of that, that's going to come in even more. We'll see a different system that comes in to help us govern the world better. But this has all got to go first. It's big, it's really big, and that's why we're all feeling it so strongly in our bodies. And for me, working with trying to stay calm during, everything that's happening in and around my world as well, but realizing that I hold a space here that has to show up and share these musings and these insights, because it's part of my role here. And creating courses like the Future Feminine Technologies, becoming the archetype for women, and that's going to roll out to some retreats soon. There is a talk I'm having today about opening a mystery school at a physical building in England, and that will run courses and retreats. So yes, there's a lot moving, and we're all part of the movement. And as I say, the reason I'm holding these retreats and doing these courses is because I don't want to do this on my own. I want the army of women who are going to be in my connective field to be with me, saying, I'm with you, and they're reaching other women. This is my web that I see happening, that the women that I've been currently working, they become standing points for bringing more women and more women and more women and more women. And that's how we become this big connective web of change, which you're all part of. You've just got to step in and say, I'm part of it, and this is how I become part of it. So a big week. I hope that the tools and the classes I'm putting out are helpful. If you feel that there's anything that would be helpful too in what I share to support this movement, then please do comment. And I really look forward to your comments under the video and on the YouTube where this later gets uploaded. So I'm wishing you a really powerful week. Stay in your body, nurture yourself, stay grounded, but let these emotions move through your body. Let them create the synergy, the emotion, the motion to move forward. So I'm sending you a great deal of love and courage as we move through this very, very, very important time. So take care, and I will see you. No, I won't see you next week because I'm away in England, and I will see you the next week, but I'll be touching base in the group. So bye for now.